You may have seen fire blanket videos in your social feeds, or maybe you haven't yet heard about these simple and safe replacements for fire extinguishers. But today's guests share their journey on how they are turning their fire blanket business into a household name. And they offer some great advice for anyone starting a new product launch or looking to grow their existing business.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with two good friends and clients of ours at Harvest Growth that run a really exciting business that hasn't been around that long, not decades at least, and they've grown it very fast and been very successful over the past few years. We're going to dive in and talk about their products, but also how they did it, get some learnings from them. Super sharp guys and good friends. I want to welcome to the show both Jarod Sievers and Neal Desai. They are the owners of Mart Cobra, the parent company of a few products. We'll talk about one in particular as we get into it today. That's super exciting. It has big next steps to it as well, which is really exciting. But first of all, I want to welcome Neal and Jarod to the show.
Thanks for having us.
So let's first of all talk about Mart Cobra. What products do you sell currently? So a lot of it's done on Amazon. What products are under your portfolio?
So fire blankets are our biggest seller. So it's just fiberglass blanket you throw over a fire to cut off the oxygen supply to kill the fire. And then we also do Mylar, aluminized Mylar emergency products, so survival gear, emergency blankets, emergency sleeping bags, and supplies of that sort.
And you mentioned the fire blanket was the first product. I believe it's kind of your hero product. It's taken off. The other ones are successful, but this has been for you guys the most successful. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's dive in a little bit and talk more about fire blankets. So for those in our audience that aren't familiar with it, so we've been working on this project launch with you recently, a next stage in your launch, I should say, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for those in our audience that aren't familiar, as many people, I talk to friends and family about this cool product that I'm working with or project I'm working on, and they're like, I didn't even know those existed. We've had so many people that have gone to check you out on Amazon. I just had a phone call today with somebody. I mentioned the project, and they literally said, I've got something similar in my shopping cart on Amazon that they'd seen on Facebook or somewhere or whatever. And they're like, what's the brand? Mart Cobra. I want to make sure it's the right one in my shopping cart. But it's been growing in visibility a little bit, but not everyone knows yet what it is. So what is the fire blanket? How does it work?
It's essentially it's tightly woven fiberglass, and it's essentially for any small type of fire. You put it over the fire and you wait for a few minutes while it cuts off the oxygen, turn off the heat source, and it just makes your life a lot easier than a fire extinguisher would, which would make a ton of mess. And fire extinguisher is not necessary for a tiny little fire. This would take care of it and keep your house safe really, really easily.
We did a video shoot with you guys recently and had a firefighter on set with us as kind of a safety officer and as part of what his responsibilities were. And frankly, he was amazing. He was talking about how most of the time fire extinguishers are in the home. They're really not necessary. As you mentioned, fires can be small. If you catch it quickly enough, a blanket works better. It doesn't make a huge mess. And there's some issues with, hey, how do I put out a fire if it's a grease fire versus a chemical fire versus whatever it might be? And the fire blanket sort of solves that. It's kind of a catch-all that is easy. You don't have to think about it. Have it close by in your kitchen, go tackle a fire and get rid of it. The other issue he talked about specifically as a fireman, he actually mentioned he was in a home one time and had a small fire and was using their fire extinguisher. I can't remember the whole reason behind it. And he had to it took him a second, right, to know what to do because everyone's a little bit different. Just the instructions of pull the pin. Now I do what's next. And then you make this huge mess afterwards. Smoke goes everywhere, right? Not the smoke from the fire, but from all the chemicals in the fire extinguisher. It's a huge mess so he particularly, myself as well, love the simplicity of this. Hang it up, pull it down, push it over the fire in a couple of seconds and it takes care of it. So it works extremely well. Do you have a sense for, so far on Amazon, do you know much about the customer base yet of how they're finding Mart Cobra fire blankets so far? How do they learn about this that for a lot of people is something new they haven't used before?
A lot of it's just been an uptick in searches that like across all the major search platforms, Google, Amazon, and then our digital marketing efforts to really get out there, like educate what fire blankets are. Like we focus a lot on like how-to videos, to where when somebody's like, "Oh, fire blanket," let me Google that. Like, what is this? How do I use this? It's that information's readily available.
And then when you're doing Amazon to build your brand and stuff, it's just a matter of getting enough pay per click and getting enough learning what the search terms are, getting enough in the back end and everywhere else so people can find it. It's just you're fighting against Amazon and their algorithm at all times and every other competitor.
And how did you guys originally get into this business? How did you get started?
So we'd made a transition into the private label sector. So essentially selling our own branded products. And we started with a couple, and nothing really like took our passion. So one of the recommendations from a course or something, or it was a course or a podcast we listened to, is like just go around and touch things in your house. Think about what you use on a daily basis. Think about things like hobbies and stuff that you have. And so when I was coming into this business, which was like exactly when we started this, I was coming out of the military, and I didn't want to create like a solution to things that already like just another product for something that already existed, like the military is using, but I still want to go along the lines of survival, safety, something that could like help people. And that's sort of where we launched the fire blankets and the emergency blankets, I think pretty much simultaneously, just because they'd fit in. My mom had caught her fire on, or caught her house on fire when I think she was 16. It was a story that I had heard growing up from my grandma. I'd had a medic catch himself on fire burning trash in Iraq. That he ended up having to leave the country for, as well as just other friends, and it just sort of clicked.
Yeah,
It became a passion.
And then we just like the niche. That's how we kept on the survival niche. We still are all of our products that we're looking for. We have a couple of leftover old products that we're like selling off, but as soon as that happens, it's going to be all survival and this kind of stuff. I think it's an interesting line, and I think a lot of people need it. There's chunks of stuff that everyone knows about, and then there's chunks of stuff like fire blankets that are just kind of new, still coming, and we're still finding stuff as we go through it too.
What I love about that is, when you pick a niche or a category to focus on, it makes it so much easier to grow your customer base or grow the number of products each customer buys, right? So the lifetime value of your customer, they come in for the fire blanket, they know and get to know and love the brand Mart Cobra. They check you guys out and buy some other products from you, right? Because they're in that same category. It's a similar audience. So it's a smart move to start down something where people could buy, one of everything, or at least several of your different products. It's funny you mentioned I shouldn't say funny, your mom's story with almost burning the house down. It's I would say coincidental that I think everybody has a story like that, right? That we've all had some sort of experience, small or big, with fire. It reminds me of our oldest daughter when she was pretty young, probably 2 at the time. And she had gotten a dish towel pushed up on the gas stove, flames caught it on fire. And we went in there, she was just as she's yanking on the ground and burnt the floor, right? It was not a crazy disaster, but it's something with a fire blanket, we could have thrown it over top that, stopped it, and not ruined our, at the time, linoleum floor years and years ago. But it's, I think we all have that connection with some kind of fire that we've had, or family, whether it's small or big. And it's always that danger that exists every time you cook a meal. You got to be careful, and things can happen. So it's good to get ahead of that. So we've had great success on Amazon. It's grown very fast, especially the fire blanket. Besides having a great product, right, that works, that gets good reviews, etc., what have been other core drivers of your success? What's really helped you to be successful with your business so far on Amazon?
No one's going to like this answer to begin with, but we had years of selling more generic parts like Legos and stuff that built some cash, and having cash to make a few mistakes helped a ton. People underestimate it. All those online gurus say you need $3,000. You always need. It's always nice to have extra cash. And some people do. They make it millions and billions of dollars off of their first 3 grand. But most people are like me who burn a lot of money along the way, and you just learn through the mistakes. And the more you learn, you start to get better at it. Over the last 3 to 5 years, we used to do a lot of stuff manually. There's programs and stuff that can help decide products now, that can help you find keywords now, that can help you do that. And we have people we work with that are help us with the pay-per-click and stuff. And just finding the people who work well with you and who do a good job and who kind of treat, obviously it's not their business, but they treat it like it is everyone's like trusting each other along the way. It helps a ton. And then now we're starting back end work where we're just like trying to build SEO, trying to do all that stuff that are just like, I think a lot of people start with that, not realizing that takes years and years. It's easier if you start with the stuff that gets you some cash going immediately, even if you're not making as much profit, because in the long run, once you have some cash on hand, you can start doing the SEOs and maybe hiring someone to build blog posts and all the little back end stuff that have to then start advertising on different venues and stuff, not just Amazon.
I like how you talked about burning through cash. I like a phrase, burn to learn, right? It's at the end of the day, in the beginning of a new campaign, you've got to burn through some cash in order to get the learnings of what works, what doesn't. Every product launch is so different. You guys have launched quite a few. We've launched hundreds of products at Harvest Growth over the years, and still every one has its own little nuances. You've got to learn as you go in the very beginning, and making sure you are learning and optimizing and not just, hey, that didn't work, I'm giving up, right? Learn from it. What can I do better? But it really is a process. The other thing you mentioned that I really like is getting to cash, right? Whether you've got a successful private label business, as you guys did in the beginning, to start with cash. The other piece is to get to cash quickly. So when I talk about burning before you learn, right? Burn through cash, you've got to get to that as fast as you can, where you get revenues and get the profits. Realize it's going to take some time, but getting there quickly as opposed to waiting for the really long-term stuff like SEO and maybe PR, right? That can take a while in the very beginning, but these quick hits of success also give you quick learnings. You'll know if you're on a path selling direct to consumer like you guys always have been, and it's generating profits, it's working, right? Before that point, when you're losing money, okay, that's the chance to learn, okay, what do I tweak? And you can see differences very quickly. Whereas with SEO and other long-term pipeline ideas, it's hard to know what is going to move the needle, not only getting it working, but what search terms even matter, right? What drives actual revenue to your business. So that's a great way of describing it. Thank you. So next, where we're excited about working with you guys, of course, is on the next phase, the next step of your business growth, which is national television. So why did you choose national TV as the next step in your journey?
I think part of that was because of how few people actually still know about the fire blanket. And I mean, they have a really long history dating back to like the Romans, where they were using wool, which is not nearly as effective as fiberglass.
These asbestos, apparently. Asbestos blankets years ago when we didn't know about asbestos also. Not the Romans, but
yeah,
it's gone through iterations where now it's actually safe.
Yeah, so I mean, the cool thing about the fire blanket is, especially with like we've seen on Amazon with reviews, is like these things actually work and they're actually saving homes, lives. At the very least, they're saving somebody a little bit of stress. And so national television just made the most sense. Like, hey, this is a great product that's helping people. Let's get it out there and see what it does.
And then from business side, the leverage of TV versus like, I kept talking about pay-per-click because that's how most business happens. Each click costs you money, where TV, you're leveraging just numbers, and like each person who views doesn't necessarily cost you another penny. So it's, as long as the product ends up doing well, as long as you send the message how you want to send it to make the sales, every additional sale past the point of break even is all profit, where that's never going to be the case with pay-per-click. Every sale that you get, every click you get is another cost to you, no matter what, where you can leverage TV a lot more than you can leverage most things. Honestly, I think you can leverage it even still better than digital, unless you're really, really good at getting stuff viral and stuff. Like if you're Mr. Beast, different story, but we're not Mr. Beast.
Yeah, good points. You talk about TV as kind of an education, right? When you've got a product that is unique, it's been out there for a little while, but you said a lot of people don't yet know about fire blankets. So it's a fantastic vehicle because of the broad awareness to drive education. And I would add one thing to what you said. I know we've talked about it before, but you just didn't mention it today, is credibility. When people see a product on TV, there's that innate trust that exists versus other platforms. Amazon has some of that because of the reviews, and you guys have tens of thousands of reviews for your products, which helps, right? But as you get to websites, et cetera, there's Facebook marketing, which works, but there's an added level of trust that comes from TV that just drives the overall, not only sales, but also brand presence and brand personality and brand trust behind it as well. So yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, are there any resources that you guys would recommend to our audience that have been helpful for you, books, podcasts, or any other resources that you'd recommend?
I think if you're just starting selling, before you get into private label or do anything crazy, just try to sell something. Just try to find something you want to get rid of in your house, sell it on eBay, find a garage sale, sell something. See if you like it. A lot of people don't like it, and that's okay. That's completely okay. Some people love it immediately, and no matter how much you end up making or don't make, if you don't like selling, this doesn't change. It's all everything in this is selling no matter what. And then before you spend money after that, there's a lot of free good information on YouTube. You're going to have to steer through some junk, and you're going to have to figure out what's good and what's bad. But the basic stuff of private label and stuff, you can find a lot of good resources on what makes a listing strong, what makes a title strong, how to find keywords, what you're supposed to do. You can use stuff like Helium 10. That's going to be a paid program at some point, but that's awesome on telling you how much search volume every keyword on Amazon has and stuff. And all that stuff, as you get to know and you start to understand it, what takes you 2 hours to read through, you can skim it in a few minutes and understand this may be a good product, this may not be a good product. And the more you learn, and you'll likely end up spending some money, but the more you learn along the way, the less you'll end up having to burn and mess up on 10. I think we messed up on 10 or 15 products, and we had trouble getting rid of them, and we should have gotten rid of them. We were just like, oh, hopefully it's going to get better. Hopefully, and you'll have to learn all that stuff. Just like I was wrong. I guessed wrong. Maybe I should just dump this product. It's a loser, and that's okay. It happens. Everyone has those.
Both great advice. I've got a second on. You have to figure out if you like selling. To be honest, I'm not sure I've ever heard someone give that advice, but it is so true, right? This is, even if you are extremely successful like you guys are, if you don't have a passion for it, it's going to be a grind, right? It's not just about money. It's about the time and effort you have to put into it, especially in the early days before it becomes a success, right? Grinding through, figuring things out, optimizing, and figuring out that first step of, do you enjoy it? I love that advice. And like you said, just sell something from your garage or whatever, sell one thing. See if you're kind of good at it. Do you have a natural knack? And then do you enjoy it? So that's fantastic advice. Well, Jarod and Neal, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would be helpful for our audience?
The only one with private label, watch out for the fake gurus. They sit everywhere. If you're going to spend your good hard-earned money, there are probably some really good systems along the way, but I think you can catch most of it free on YouTube. And then once you have some cash, pay someone who may know a little bit more, and maybe that'll help you more rather than that first $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. It's better off used as learning experience money and maybe make a profit on it. The money you give away to someone else to just teach you isn't anything. But YouTube may take you a little more time, but I think the time's worth the $5,000 to $10,000 you may end up saving.
Yeah, I would also add to that, to not be afraid to hire somebody to do something like these little small projects Neal was talking about. Hire somebody to do it at first, and then sit there and think about and get your own hands dirty and figure out how they did it. Because that's something I've done throughout our business all the time is Neal will hire someone to hey, let's do this, and then I find out a way. I figure out at least enough basics to be able to systemize it and train it and optimize it to where even if we don't have the time to do it ourselves or can't do it ourselves, we can now connect with that person and understand that person's journey in their own creation process a little bit more, just to help get the job done.
And if you have something small that needs to get done that you may not be good at drawing something or something, maybe blog post, Fiverr and Upwork are pretty great. They don't charge much, and yeah, not everything's gonna be perfect, but over time you can find stuff. And we still use Fiverr all the time for little tasks and stuff, and it helps a lot. With stuff we don't have time for, it's better off someone takes care of it, someone who knows what they're doing, and it 20, 30 bucks worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it can be so cheap that if it maybe the first person isn't good, but to do 2 or 3 could save you a ton of time, right? The third one's going to be perfect or whatever, right? These steps can save a lot of money, and realize what we don't do. We may not be experts in every field, right? So where you're not an expert, if it's graphic design or whatever it might be, finding especially inexpensive resources to help fill those gaps. That's great advice. Well, Neal and Jarod, I really appreciate your time today. This has been a really fun interview. I know our audience is going to love it as well. I do encourage our audience, please go to buyfireblankets.com, B-U-Y, buyfireblankets.com to learn more about their product. You can see what they've done a bit with their business. You can also search out Mart Cobra on Amazon to see the fire blanket as well as other products that they've worked on. And then did you know that you can meet with a member of my team at Harvest Growth absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help, so please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further. Well, thanks again.
Thanks.